The little girl was forced to handle every household chore, along with whatever outrageous demands her stepmother could dream up, just to earn a small cup of milk for her frail baby brother. But soon things spiraled far beyond anything that could be considered normal. The stepmother's demands grew harsher by the day until both children were pushed to the brink of exhaustion. Then came the day that changed everything, the day the millionaire father returned home, unexpectedly early, and witnessed a scene that would haunt him for the rest of his life. So, get comfortable, relax, and listen to this story. I hope it helps you disconnect and perhaps sleep a little more peacefully tonight. What city are you watching this video from and what time is it? By the way, if you're enjoying my videos, I'd be so happy if you could subscribe to my channel and like this video. Now let's begin. 2 years after the wedding. The Vance family estate still glowed with a warm light every evening, calm, silent. Almost too peaceful to arouse suspicion. Mr. Vance believed he had finally found the woman who could restore order to his family. Veronica always spoke in a soft voice, moved with grace, and knew exactly how to earn his complete trust. "You just focus on your business, my love. I'll handle everything here," she would say with a steady voice and an unwavering gaze. And she did. The house was always spotless. Meals were on time, everything in perfect order. But no one seemed to notice how the children's laughter slowly faded away once Veronica settled in. Lucy, 8 years old, and little Tommy, 4, had tried to bond with their stepmother. Veronica never raised her voice in front of her husband. She would even stroke Lucy's hair when he was nearby. But the moment he walked out the door, her tone shifted, hard and cold, like a wire pulled too tight. "I need you to help out a bit, Lucy," she said the first morning Mr. Vance left for a business trip. "You're old enough to learn how to be useful." "Yes, ma'am," Lucy murmured, gripping the hem of her dress. At first, the chores were small, folding towels, making the bed, washing mugs. But every day the list grew. Veronica's smile never faded as she added more. "You're doing very well," she'd say. "Tomorrow, we'll add just one more thing." A week later, she taped a large piece of paper to the stainless steel refrigerator, a detailed schedule. Morning, sweep the floors. Noon, scrub the tiles. Afternoon, water the garden. "If you finish everything," she said calmly, "I will reward you with a little milk for Tommy." Lucy nodded enthusiastically. She believed her. Those first few days, she woke up earlier than usual, sweeping until her small hands turned red. By noon, she was on her knees scrubbing until the gray water turned clear. By evening, she watered every plant one by one. When Veronica inspected her work, Lucy stood still, waiting. "Not bad," Veronica said. "But not clean enough. Do it better tomorrow." "I hope so." "Thank you." The next day, Lucy worked harder. When she finished, she looked at the fridge, hopeful. Veronica tilted her head. "Tommy misbehaved today. He doesn't deserve milk." Lucy looked down, biting her lip. The next morning she tried again, faster, neater. Veronica checked everything, then simply said, "We're out of milk." After a few times like this, Lucy stopped asking. Mr. Vance remained happily oblivious. Every time he returned home, Veronica greeted him with her flawless smile, the table perfectly set, the house gleaming. The children sat in silence during dinner, hands folded. "See?" Veronica would say in a warm, proud tone. "They've learned how to behave." "Yes," he would reply, smiling. "How lucky I'm to have you." Veronica smiled, pouring him another glass of wine. Lucy watched the bubbles rise in the glass, feeling a hollow emptiness in her chest. The next morning, when he left for work, Veronica walked him to the door. "Don't worry about a thing," she said softly, squeezing his hand. Her eyes calm as fog. From the staircase, Lucy watched the heavy oak door close. In that instant, Veronica's sweetness vanished. "To work," she ordered. "Starting today, I will show you what discipline really means." Lucy bowed her head. Her hands were trembling. That afternoon, while she was scrubbing the floor, Tommy began to cry from hunger. Lucy poured a little milk into a small cup and turned to him just as Veronica entered the room. Her eyes locked onto the cup. She said nothing. Instead, she walked to the fridge, took out a red permanent marker, and drew a line across every milk carton. "From now on," she said calmly, "everything marked in red belongs to me. Do you understand, Lucy?" Lucy nodded, squeezing the cup until a few drops hit the floor. Veronica looked at the white spot and smiled faintly. What a pity to waste it, right? That night, Lucy hid a small piece of bread in her pocket. When Veronica went to sleep, she tiptoed to Tommy, breaking the bread carefully so it wouldn't make a sound. But the door flew open. Light flooded the room. "What are you doing?" Veronica stood in the doorway, arms crossed. Lucy froze. "I was just checking on him." Veronica stepped closer, resting her hand on the dresser. "If you want to eat, you earn it. Don't you want to learn that lesson?" "Yes, I do," Lucy whispered, barely audible. "Good. Tomorrow I'll give you another chance to prove it." The next morning, a new chart appeared on the wall. The last line, the old reward, had been crossed out. In its place, Veronica wrote, "Permission to use food from the kitchen." Lucy read it over and over. She didn't fully understand, but she felt a knot in her chest. At breakfast, Veronica slammed a notebook in front of her. "From now on, every task you complete must be logged. Start time. End time. Result, I will review it." Lucy opened the first page and wrote the first line, Day 1. "Do you know why I'm doing this?" Veronica asked. Lucy shook her head. "Because you need to learn to be trustworthy. When you finally understand discipline, you'll grow up." Veronica closed the notebook. Her tone remained calm, as if every word were part of a script she had written long ago. That night, Lucy sat on her bed, logging every chore she had done. Her small hand shook as she wrote the final line. No errors allowed. She closed the book and looked at Tommy sleeping beside her. His lips were cracked. Lucy ... Lucy touched his forehead and whispered, "I'll do better tomorrow." From the hallway, slow, firm, deliberate footsteps echoed, stopping right outside the door. "Lucy," came Veronica's voice, soft as a sigh. "Remember this, in this house, no one forgets their duty." "I remember, Mother." "Good, get some sleep. Tomorrow will be a busy day." The door clicked shut, leaving a heavy silence. Lucy lay still, eyes open, staring at the ceiling. "Tommy." Veronica's words replayed in her mind like a whisper she couldn't escape. Beside her, Tommy stirred and murmured in his sleep, "I'm thirsty." Lucy closed her eyes, pulled him close, and whispered back, as if talking to herself, "Tomorrow there will be milk. I promise tomorrow there will be." In that stillness, the ticking of the clock marked every passing second, counting down the hours until morning, when everything in that house would begin to change. Little by little, exactly as Veronica had written in her book. From that morning on, the notebook became something Veronica never lost sight of. She carried it like a contract. Every move Lucy made, every cleaning, every chair she adjusted had to be marked. When Lucy handed it over, Veronica flipped through every page and marked it with a red pen. Incomplete. "Do you know why it's incomplete?" Her voice was calm, neither loud nor soft. Lucy shook her head, her small hands gripping the corner of her shirt. "Because you did it without focus. Doing something without attention is the same as being lazy." Lucy lowered her head and whispered, "I'm sorry, Mom." Veronica smiled, though her eyes didn't join in. "Don't apologize. Do it again." From that day on, the word incomplete echoed in the house like the ticking of a clock. Every morning, Veronica no longer mentioned milk as a reward, but she kept telling Lucy to try a little harder. By the second week, Veronica fired 2 of the old staff members, leaving only Claire, a young helper who had just arrived, and Martha, who had worked there long before Veronica appeared. The change altered the atmosphere in the house. Martha watched Veronica in silence, though her eyes spoke clearly of disapproval. One afternoon, Martha found Lucy sitting on the floor, scrubbing the same spot over and over, her face smudged with grime. Martha knelt and put a hand on the girl's shoulder. "That's enough, honey. Take a break. Children aren't machines. Yes, but Veronica's voice came from behind, sharp and smooth as a razor. Are you teaching my daughter to ignore my instructions? I just thought ... There is no need for you to think for me. In this house, there is only one person who gives orders. That evening, Veronica called Martha to the living room. No shouting, no insults. Just a plain white envelope placed on the table. It won't be necessary for you to return tomorrow, she said calmly. Martha left, and the silence that followed was heavier than the night. From that day on, only Claire remained. Veronica transferred all supervision of Lucy to her. Note down when she starts, when she stops, and what she achieves, she instructed. Claire nodded quickly, heart pounding in her ears. Lucy kept working as before, only now every finished task required Claire's signature. One afternoon, Lucy asked softly, I finished my chores, Claire. Can I have some milk for my brother now? Claire looked around and hesitated. Today. Miss Veronica said it's over. Lucy nodded, forcing a small smile. I understand. A few days later, Tommy looked thinner. His cheeks had sunken, his lips dry and cracked. Lucy begged to hold him, but Veronica refused. He must learn to resist. Don't make him weak. But he's sick. Children need to learn to be strong. Her words felt colder than her gaze. From a distance, Claire stood clutching the notebook, wanting to speak, but when Veronica's eyes shifted toward her, she felt a block in her throat. That night, when Veronica went upstairs, Claire slipped into the kitchen and hid a small piece of bread in the pantry near Lucy's room. Eat it, she whispered. Just don't let anyone find out. Thank you, Lucy whispered back, shivering. Thank you. The next morning, the pantry lock had been changed. Claire understood immediately. Veronica knew. But she said nothing, just looked at Claire with an expression that said she had expected it all along. That afternoon, Veronica received a call from the bank. Her voice softened suddenly, sweet and measured. Yes, I understand. I just need to adjust my husband's authorization since he travels so often. I want things to flow more easily. Thank you. When the call ended, she sat by the window for a moment, then smiled faintly. That night, she called Elena, the bank manager. Her tone was low but firm. I need your help to resign some documents. Just to save time. You know how these things are. On the other end of the line, Elena replied dryly. If the papers have Mr. Vance's signature, I will review them. Of course, Veronica said, curling her lips slightly. Claire passed by the doorway and caught a few words but didn't stop. Eavesdropping on the madam was forbidden, even if disobedience meant a sleepless night. The next morning, Veronica accompanied Lucy outside. She watched the girl scrubbing mud from the steps with her little hands gripping the brush. You're doing well, she said. If you can work like this again tomorrow, I'll give you a real reward. Lucy's eyes lit up. Really? But only if you don't spill water like yesterday. Lucy worked until the sun went down. When she finished, she ran to tell her mother. Veronica looked at her, nodding slightly. Good. Tomorrow you'll get your reward. Lucy woke up the next day unusually excited. But when she entered the kitchen, a new sheet of paper was taped to the pantry. Today's tasks, double the length of yesterday's. You said I would have a reward today. Veronica looked up with an indifferent smile. If you want a reward, you must work twice as hard. I don't reward those who only do enough. Lucy said nothing. She took the list and walked silently to the patio. Claire watched her go with growing unease in her chest. She wrote in the notebook, Day 14. Lucy worked without rest. No breakfast. Tommy looks weak. That night, Claire hid more food, this time inside an old metal tin. But in the morning, Veronica was at the kitchen door holding that very box. How thoughtful, Claire, she said without emotion. From now on, the kitchen remains locked. Everything must be controlled. Even kindness. Claire said nothing, lowering her head. When Veronica walked away, Lucy looked at her, lips trembling. It's okay, Miss Claire. I'm okay. I'm sorry, Claire whispered, though she didn't believe it herself. Later that afternoon, Lucy accidentally spilled a cup of water. It spread across the floor. She rushed to clean it, but Veronica walked in. She looked at the puddle for a long moment, then spoke softly, almost kindly. Tomorrow, you will clean a dirtier place. Lucy froze, clutching the rag. Where is dirtier, Mom? Veronica crouched, picked up the cup, and placed it back on the table. Down the lowest floor, the one no one wants to step on. I think it's the right place for you to learn what true work means. No one spoke again. Lucy stood still, watching her mother walk away, feeling a chill run down her spine. That night, Claire sat by her small window, writing on a scrap of paper, "If I don't see Lucy tomorrow, it means things have gone too far." She folded it and put it in her pocket, unsure why she did it, only knowing that tomorrow, something inside that house would finally cross the line. The next morning, the rain started early. The drops were small, cold, and persistent, like silver threads hanging from the sky. Veronica stood by the window with a cup of tea, her eyes following the wet patio outside. When she saw Lucy carrying little Tommy, she said dryly, "Today you will clean the doghouse. Consider it a lesson in patience." Lucy froze, looking out at the rain. "Mom, it's raining." "Even better," Veronica replied, putting down her tea. Her voice wasn't loud, but sharp as a blade. "The rainwater will help you clean faster." Lucy said nothing. She simply carried her brother outside. Tommy curled up in her arms, lips pale. His bottle had been empty since the night before. Lucy crouched, placed him under the shelter of the porch roof, and then began to clean. The mud mixed with the rain, swirling around her ankles. Every time she paused, Veronica reminded her from the window. "Keep going, Lucy. No one gets stronger through pity." Tommy coughed softly. Lucy turned her head, voice trembling. "He's tired, Mom." "Then hurry up so your brother can rest," Veronica said, not even looking. The rain grew heavier. The cold seeped through Lucy's thin skin, her small hands shaking. Still, she continued cleaning every corner, the rain mixing with her tears. Then, she heard the sound of tires outside the gate and lifted her head. A familiar black town car pulled up. Mr. Vance had returned home. Earlier than expected. Lucy stepped out, wet coat over one shoulder, and her eyes caught a strange scene. Veronica standing with an umbrella on the porch, while Lucy was on her knees scrubbing the floor, with Tommy leaning on her lap, eyes sunken. Mr. Vance stopped dead, frowning. "What is going on here?" Veronica turned with a soft smile, as if the sky hadn't been pouring down all morning. "Oh, you're back early." "I was just teaching the children how to do some chores. They need to learn responsibility." "In the rain?" "It's just a drizzle, dear. I'm right here watching them." Lucy looked at her father, about to speak, but hesitated. Seeing her cleaning so diligently, Mr. Vance mistook it for a willingness to learn. He sighed and nodded. "That's good. I'm glad you're teaching them properly." Veronica smiled, tilting her head to hide the flash of cold satisfaction in her eyes. That afternoon, everything returned to its usual order. Mr. Vance read the Wall Street Journal in the living room while Veronica prepared dinner. The smell of roast and the warm glow of the light made him forget the soaked patio. Lucy sat silently at the table, eating small bites. Tommy leaned on her shoulder, eyes heavy. "See?" Veronica said while pouring more wine. "The children are much more obedient now." Mr. Vance nodded, pleased. "How lucky I am to have you." Lucy sat still, listening to their laughter, two voices that sounded distant, almost unreal. When dinner ended, Veronica gathered the plates, her hands moving with grace as if performing a role. Mr. Vance still believed everything at home was fine. He stood up, putting a hand on her shoulder. "I really appreciate how you take care of them." "You exaggerate, Thomas," she said sweetly. "I'm just doing what needs to be done." Lucy heard that, feeling a knot in her chest. She wanted to tell her father that Tommy hadn't eaten all day, but the words got stuck in her throat. She feared Veronica's eyes, the kind that seemed to hear thoughts before they were spoken. That night, Mr. Vance and Veronica spoke in the hallway. Her voice was calm. "Business is good," he said. "I might have to go to Tokyo next week." "For how long?" "About 2 weeks." "Perfect," Veronica replied. "I'll reorganize some things in the house while you're away." Lucy only caught the last part as she walked by. She didn't understand what reorganize meant, but the way Veronica smiled unsettled her. Later that night, Lucy returned to her room. Tommy was asleep, breathing faintly. She sat beside him, her small hand resting on his chest, feeling the faint rhythm beneath. The door creaked open. Veronica entered holding a fresh sheet of paper. "Tomorrow. This is your list of chores." Lucy took it, eyes wide. "But I still have to take care of my brother. He sleeps all day." "He doesn't need you that much. But what if he gets thirsty?" "Then work faster so he doesn't have to wait." Lucy looked at the paper. It was twice as long as yesterday's. Veronica just nodded, avoiding any argument. She studied Lucy's face, a brief flash of satisfaction appearing. "Don't make me repeat myself," she said, closing the door behind her. That night, the rain fell ceaselessly. Amidst the downpour, Lucy heard faint metallic sounds upstairs, the safe in her father's home office. She knew Veronica was there. Slow steps. Papers shuffling. Then silence. She didn't understand what it meant, but something felt different. As if another storm was brewing inside their home. Veronica opened the safe, took out an envelope marked with the bank's seal, and spread the papers on the mahogany desk. Mr. Vance's signatures were neat and precise. She took out a pen and added a small note at the bottom in her handwriting. "An exact imitation. Adjustment confirmed under authorization." Then she locked the safe again, lips curling slightly. When everything was ready, she stood by the window, looking at the rain-soaked patio where Lucy had scrubbed earlier. There was now a faint trail of mud. "Teaching people is easy," she whispered to herself. "All it takes is a little discipline." Meanwhile, Lucy remained awake. She sat by Tommy, candlelight flickering on her face. She took a small cloth and gently wiped water from his hand. "Tomorrow I'll try harder," she murmured. "Mom said if I behave you'll have milk." Tommy didn't answer, only breathing faintly. Lucy rested her head next to him, eyes slowly closing from exhaustion. In her dreams, she heard the rain mixing with heavy footsteps on the floor. As if someone were counting every one of her breaths in the dark. The next morning, the phone rang in the living room. Veronica answered. Elena's voice came from the other side. "Mrs. Vance? The documents your husband sent need some signatures verified. Can you come in today?" "Of course," Veronica said quickly. "I'll be there right away." She hung up, put down the teapot and looked at the chore list on the table. Lucy's messy handwriting was still visible. Sweep patio. Mop floor. Wash dishes. Clean storage. Veronica tapped the last line lightly, smiling. "Good, while I'm out, you'll have the chance to demonstrate how obedient you can be." Outside, the sky darkened. Raindrops began hitting the porch roof again, constant, rhythmic, like a silent warning of what was to come. Veronica sat at her desk, her hand moving firmly over the pages of the expense ledger. The pen followed a well-marked path. She erased old numbers, replacing them with neat, carefully written figures. Every envelope bore Mr. Vance's name, but the final line, the one destined for a signature, remained blank, like a silent space for an unfinished plan. She checked every document, smoothing the edges of the paper before locking everything in the safe in her private room. When the clock hands hit 9 o'clock, she glanced at the small calendar nearby and scribbled a note. Thursday. Meeting with Elena. Elena's soft, confident voice from yesterday's call still echoed faintly in her mind. Sweet, unsuspecting, unprotected. Downstairs. The sounds of splashing water and a brush scraping against tile grew steady. Lucy was cleaning according to the new list. The paper she received that morning was 3 times longer than yesterday's. Every line written in Veronica's small, tight handwriting, leaving no room to breathe. Walk the dog. Wash the car. Clean the storage room. Check the upstairs windows. Every task was a chain binding the girl's hours tighter and tighter. In a corner, Tommy clutched his worn teddy bear, coughing weakly. His empty milk bottle from the night before was still on the table. Lucy looked at it, hesitated, but didn't dare touch it. She knew now that everything in this house had an owner. Even the milk. When she finished sweeping the porch, Veronica appeared behind her holding a notebook. "Do you think this place is clean yet?" Lucy looked up, sweat darkening her collar. "I think so, ma'am." Veronica crouched, swiped a finger across a tile, then frowned. "Still dust. Not good enough. Do it again." "But..." "No rush," Veronica replied softly. "I just want you to understand that doing something carelessly is worse than not doing it at all." Her tone was calm, but her gaze made Lucy lower her head instantly. From the kitchen doorway, Claire watched in silence, gripping the dishcloth. Since Martha had been fired, Claire had become the sole witness to life inside that house. She knew she should stay quiet, but the silence was becoming harder to swallow every day. That afternoon, while Veronica was on a phone call in her study, Claire was clearing the dining table and casually caught fragments of her voice. "Renew the authorization. Going to travel for a long period. Need to secure legal ownership." Veronica's voice dropped low, silky but hard. Claire froze, heart pounding. She couldn't put the whole puzzle together, but something told her this wasn't just about business. That night, Veronica came down to check the milk in the fridge. Every bottle was marked with a red line, her new custom. When she noticed one bottle was lower than before, she spun around and shouted, "Lucy!" The girl rushed in, eyes wide. "Who took the milk?" "Not me, ma'am." "Claire?" Veronica's gaze shifted to the housekeeper standing by the sink. "No, ma'am, I..." Veronica cut her off softly. "Fine. If no one speaks, I'll handle it fairly." She opened the bottle and poured it all down the drain. The white stream swirled away, leaving faint bubbles clinging to the sink. "No one deserves milk tonight," she said simply. Lucy trembled. Tommy moaned softly from the corner. Claire's hand tightened around her sleeve, but she didn't move. When everyone went upstairs, Claire stayed behind. She pulled out her phone and played the recording she had made earlier. Veronica's voice was clear, every word sharp as a pin. "Authorization. Legal transfer. Temporary ownership." Claire removed the static, saved a clean copy, and created a backup. 2 days later, Veronica hosted a small dinner party. Elena arrived with 2 friends, bringing envelopes and documents. Veronica welcomed them warmly, introducing herself as her husband's financial assistant. Over the meal, she subtly brought up papers needing signatures, the convenience of reorganized accounts. Elena, though a bit uncomfortable, maintained her polite composure. She listened more than she spoke. When the guests left, Veronica walked them to the door. "Elena." Elena turned once before leaving, her gaze brief but penetrating enough to make Veronica keep smiling. After the car drove away, she stood motionless for a moment, then double-locked the door. That night, there was no wind. Lucy fell asleep next to Tommy. Veronica opened the fridge and saw the milk level had dropped again. This time she didn't ask questions. She woke Lucy up and made her stand in the kitchen while she checked the shelves. Finding no fault with Claire, she calmly poured every remaining bottle down the sink. "This world is not kind to the greedy," she murmured in an even voice. Almost like a prayer. Lucy stood still, eyes wide, dry of tears. In the corner, Claire's chest tightened painfully. When Veronica went upstairs, Claire silently replayed the old recording. Hearing that voice again filled her with dread. It wasn't just cruelty. It was cold calculation. The next morning, Veronica ordered Lucy to clean the storage room, handing her a broom. She said lightly, "You must know that dirt doesn't disappear on its own. Whoever cleans it must get dirty first." Lucy nodded, eyes downcast. The air inside the storage room was dense and stale. She worked until dusk, hands blistered. Claire approached with a small bottle of water. placing it beside her. Drink, Lucy. Take a break. Thank you. But if she finds out ... it's okay. Drink. I'll watch. Before she could say more, Veronica's voice boomed behind them. I didn't hire you to cover up for others. Claire spun around pale. She looked exhausted, Mrs. Vance. I appreciate your kindness, Veronica said softly. But kindness isn't always in the right place. Her eyes swept over both of them, distant. Neither of you will eat tonight. Consider it a lesson. That night, Veronica went to bed early. Claire sat in her small room, replaying the same voice clip. The words renew authorization echoed like an alarm. She copied the file again, hid it in a private folder, and sent the original to a backup email she had created long ago. Her fingers trembled, but she kept going. At midnight, Claire was still awake. The house was silent, almost lifeless. Upstairs, Veronica's light was still on. The next morning, the phone rang. Claire was clearing the table when she heard Veronica answer. Yes, this is Veronica Vance. Oh, Elena. Yes, about the signature. Tomorrow works. But if you prefer sooner, I'm free today. Claire froze, heart racing. She looked toward the staircase where Veronica stood, her tone soft and deliberate. The sooner the better. I'd prefer not to bother my husband. You know how these things are? When she hung up, she saw Lucy standing at the foot of the stairs holding a broom. Their eyes met, and in that instant, Lucy understood something was about to happen, something bigger, deeper, and out of reach. In Veronica's gaze, there was a flash, something bright and cold. Like steel. The next morning, a faint gray light filtered through the curtains, leaving pale trails on the cold floor. Veronica stood before the mirror, adjusted her collar, sprayed a little perfume, then turned to Lucy, who was sitting in the corner holding Tommy. I have to go out today, she said in a tone so calm, it almost sounded empty. You know what you have to do. She placed a sheet of paper on the table, covered in neat, slanted handwriting. If you finish everything, you might earn a little milk for your brother. Don't forget the back storage room. Lucy took the paper. Her small eyes lifted, a glimmer of hope lighting them up, only to be extinguished as soon as she met Veronica's smile. Yes. Yes, Mother. Veronica left, her heels clicking rhythmically against the floor until the door closed, sealing the silence behind her. Lucy. Lucy laid Tommy down carefully, pulling the blanket up to his chest. His breathing hissed softly. His lips were dry. She whispered, Sleep, little one. I'll be quick. She began to clean every room according to the list. When she reached her father's study, she hesitated. The room was always locked, but today the door was slightly ajar. She pushed it gently and entered. The air smelled of old paper and dry ink. On the desk, folders were neat, except for one thick envelope lying askew, the seal poorly closed. Lucy picked it up carefully. The words printed on the front made her spell them out slowly. Supplementary investment authorization. Below was her father's company name and a blank space where his signature should be. She didn't understand what it meant, but something in her chest whispered that it was important. She thought her father would be happy if she kept it safe. So Lucy folded it neatly, put it in her pocket, and continued cleaning the table and dusting every corner as carefully as possible. Well into the afternoon, the sound of an engine echoed outside. Veronica returned, her face as serene as ever. But when she opened the metal filing cabinet in the study, she froze. The envelope was gone. She rifled through drawers, opened folders, even checked under the rug. A moment later, her eyes sharpened, cold, bright, and dark. Lucy. She strode down the stairs, calling clearly, every syllable deliberate. Lucy. The girl came running, hands still dusty. Did you go into your father's office? Yes, I did. I was cleaning. Did you take something? Lucy shook her head, but her small fingers curled tight. Veronica stared at her, reading her silence. Then, without a word, she reached into Lucy's pocket. The faint crinkle of paper broke the air. The envelope appeared, crumpled but intact. Without speaking, Veronica tore the seal and checked inside. The documents were still there. However, her expression grew colder, harder. "Do you know what this is?" Lucy lowered her gaze, her voice barely a breath. "I just wanted to give it back to Daddy." Veronica smiled faintly, a smile devoid of warmth. "Good. Then let me help you remember something. Not everything is yours to touch." She dragged a chair to the center of the room and pointed to the floor. "Kneel here. Don't move until I say so." Lucy obeyed. The room was cold. The hard floor numbed her knees. From the other room came Tommy's faint coughs, echoing through the door, making the silence heavier. Dinner came and went. Veronica ate alone, flipping through her newspaper, sipping wine. Claire cleared the plates and saw Lucy still kneeling under the dim light. "Mrs. Vance." "The girl?" Veronica put down her glass without looking up. "Stay out of how I raise my children." When Veronica left the room, Claire waited until the footsteps faded upstairs. She approached Lucy and offered a cup of water. "Here, drink just a little." Lucy shook her head, eyes dry and dull. "If she finds out, she punished me again." "It's okay. I'll say it was me." Lucy just stared at her, lips pressed tight. "Please, don't help me anymore. I can take it." The next day, Claire swallowed hard. For the first time in months, she felt something close to fear, not of Veronica, but of the quiet strength in that child's voice. That night, when the house was silent, Claire opened her old laptop in the kitchen. Plugging in her headphones, she played an audio file. Veronica's voice from a dinner with Elena. "He trusts me completely. Once he signs this last part, the transfer will move faster." Elena replied, "I need his confirmation first. He won't refuse. I've taken care of everything." Claire's heart beat wildly. She downloaded the audio file and attached it to an anonymous email. Slowly, she typed the subject line: "Urgent information for Grace, assistant, to Mr. Vance." She wrote only one sentence: "I believe your boss is being deceived. The person's name is Veronica Vance. Here is the recording." Then she hit send. In the company office, Grace was still working late. The email arrived, short title, no sender name. She opened it, listened to the recording, and sat in silence for a long time. The words, "He trusts me completely," echoed in her ears, awakening something uneasy inside her. She saved the file, put it in a private folder, and decided she wouldn't report it just yet, not until she was sure. Over the next 2 days, Veronica acted as if nothing had happened. She smiled, instructed Lucy on her chores, even praised her once. "You're being more diligent." But Claire knew better. That wasn't peace. It was planning. One morning, Claire caught Veronica pausing in front of the mirror, staring at herself for a long time. She adjusted her hair, straightened her collar, and smiled at her reflection. That smile made Claire's skin crawl. Whenever Veronica looked that pleased, it meant she was plotting something. On the third night, a letter arrived at the Vance Company office. The handwriting on the envelope was uneven. The sender's name, Martha Ellison. Inside were several pages describing how she had been forced to resign after objecting to Veronica's treatment of the children. But the letter never reached Mr. Vance. The internal secretary, an old friend of Veronica's, read it, frowned, then folded it silently and locked it away. "Family matters," she muttered. "Better not to get involved." Before we continue, please take a moment to leave a comment about this story and rate it from 1 to 10. How are you feeling? If there's anything you'd like to share, I'm always here to listen. I hope you find a moment of peace and reflection as you follow this healing story and its journey of courage and justice. Meanwhile, Tommy grew weaker every day. He no longer cried, only moaned softly now and then. Lucy kept working in silence, every step cautious as if she feared making a sound. Claire watched and began documenting everything times. Words, even Veronica's expressions. Lucy bought a small notebook and meticulously recorded. Day 18, Lucy skipped dinner. Veronica said silence is a virtue. Day 19, Tommy coughed. Veronica said no milk. Day 20, Lucy worked late. I heard her laugh as she locked the door. Claire no longer knew why she was writing, whether to remember, to testify, or simply to stay sane. On the fourth night, Veronica came down and said softly, "Tomorrow clean the basement, Lucy." Claire gasped. "It's filthy. But. If you behave well, I might consider a reward." Claire heard it, and her stomach clenched. She knew the basement cramped, suffocating, full of strong cleaning chemicals and discarded junk. After Veronica went upstairs, Claire grabbed her phone, opening her sent email to Grace. Staring at the words sent successfully, she whispered to herself, it was enough. She knew time was running out. Something terrible was coming. That morning the house felt dense, as if something invisible were about to break. Veronica stood at the top of the stairs, jingling a cold ring of keys. Then she offered them to Lucy. "Today you are going to clean the basement," she said, voice flat, hiding nothing. "Before noon. I want it spotless. Do it right, and there will be milk for the baby." Lucy took the keys, head bowed, saying nothing. Claire hovered near the kitchen and took half a step forward. "Mrs. Vance, the basement smells of chemicals. The girl..." "Do your job," Veronica interrupted without turning. "I didn't hire you to teach me how to raise children." Claire pressed her lips together and stepped back. Her eyes followed Lucy's small figure as she went down the stairs with a broom and a bucket of water that looked bigger than her. The basement door clicked shut, and the only sound left was the faint rattle of the lock. Downstairs, the humidity rose like a blanket. The air mixed smells of old paint, bleach, and metallic dust. Lucy set down the bucket and tried to steady her breathing. She clung to the promise of there will be milk, like a small light in her mind. She began scrubbing. Specks of grime fell into the murky gray water. Her small hands shook. Her knees burned from kneeling too long. After a while, the cold blurred her vision. Lucy sank down, still clutching the broom, but her strength was draining away. Before fading, she thought of Tommy, his face blurry in her mind, fragile like a light bulb about to burn out. By noon, Claire realized Lucy hadn't come up for lunch. She stood in the kitchen, nervously wiping an empty glass. Then she slammed it down and muttered, "I can't just let this happen." She slipped down to the basement. The chemical sting made her eyes water. "Lucy, where are you?" she called. No answer. In a far corner she found a small motionless body. Claire ran, heart lurching. "Oh my God!" She lifted Lucy's head cold to the touch. Claire picked her up, carried her out to the front porch, laid her on an old blanket and ran to get water. "Lucy! Wake up, honey. Drink a little of this." Lucy's long lashes fluttered. She opened her eyes, voice husky. Where is Tommy? Is he okay? Drink this, quick." A loud slam of the front door made Claire spin around. Veronica was there. Her coat still smelled of strong perfume, her eyes hard as steel. "But Lucy, what are you doing?" Claire stepped between her and Lucy. "She fainted in the basement." ICOULDN single quotes T. You do not have permission to go down there. Veronica took slow, deliberate steps. "I made your boundaries clear. Pack your things and leave my house. This afternoon." "Mrs. Vance, at least think of the children. They need ... You're fired." The word cut through the air, clean and final. Sharp as a razor. Claire clenched her hands but said nothing more. She went to her room, gathered the few things she owned, and on her way out looked at Lucy sitting on the porch hugging a pillow, eyes empty, while Veronica leaned in the doorway with a disturbingly absent gaze. Before walking out the gate, Claire pulled out her phone and typed a rushed message. "Grace, if you read this, both children are in danger." She hit send without another word. That afternoon, Grace was at her desk when the message arrived. Her heart skipped a beat. She opened the files Claire had sent earlier and listened closer this time. The recording of Veronica at the party with Elena. He trusts me completely. Once he signs this, the assets will move quickly. Elena, I need him to confirm. Veronica, he won't refuse. I've handled everything. Grace forwarded the file through secure internal channels directly to Mr. Vance. At that moment, he was at the Tokyo airport, about to take a connecting flight to Zurich. His phone buzzed. Grace's short note read, "Listen, urgent." He played the clip. Veronica's voice, soft, calm, hit like a sledgehammer. "Once he signs, the remaining accounts will transfer to my name." Mr. Vance froze. Then he muttered to the airline staff, "I need to change my flight. Get me a flight back to New York. Tonight." Night fell, and the plane sped back through the clouds. Veronica sat in the living room and called Elena. "Hello? Can we sign sooner? Maybe tomorrow?" Elena replied cautiously, "I need to verify a few things, Mrs. Vance. We shouldn't rush." "The sooner the better," Veronica insisted. "He trusts me completely." That night, Lucy woke up thirsty. She looked at Tommy. He was breathing, but weakly. She searched the room and found only an empty bottle. The rain began to drum outside. She thought of the rain barrel on the porch. In the hallway, she saw Veronica with her phone in hand, purse on the table. Gathering every ounce of courage she had, Lucy asked, "Mom? Please, a little milk for the baby?" Veronica turned with a look of indifference. "Milk? Don't you think I've given you enough? But he's so weak. Then work faster instead of standing there complaining." She grabbed her purse and walked out without looking back. The door slammed shut, leaving the two children alone in the silent house. Lucy carried Tommy to the porch, opened the lid of the rain barrel from the day before, and gathered small sips in the cap to feed him. Tommy blinked, drank slowly, and fell asleep again. "I swear you're going to be okay," she whispered. At the airport, Mr. Vance received a second message from Grace, this time a short video she had pulled from the surveillance cameras using temporary access. Veronica throwing a milk bottle to the floor. Lucy kneeling and scrubbing with bare hands. He watched unblinking for 15 seconds. Then he squeezed his phone until his knuckles turned white. "Have a car ready when I land," he told his assistant. Not a minute late. The rain stopped that afternoon. The sky was stained gray with smoke-like trails. Veronica drove home, face cold, lips heavily painted. She found the two children on the porch. Tommy in Lucy's lap, hair plastered down by the rain. Lucy doing her best to shield him with a wet rag. She strode over, voice raspy. "Who told you to bring him out here? He was thirsty. I just wanted him to drink something." "What?" "Rainwater. Are you trying to hurt him?" Veronica yanked Lucy's arm so hard the girl stumbled, clutching Tommy. "Mom, please no!" "Shut up." A glass smashed against the floor as it was thrown. She dragged them both inside and barked, "Stay there. Don't take a single step outside." Lucy trembled, holding the baby, eyes searching for any escape. Veronica reached for her phone, apparently to call someone, but the sound of an engine at the gate stopped her mid-motion. A black town car pulled up. The door opened. Mr. Vance stepped out. His usual calm was gone. The rain clung to his hair, but he didn't wipe it away. His gaze fell to the floor-wet trails marked where they had been sitting, and then to the two shivering children. "Honey." Veronica tried to recover. "You're back early." "I was just teaching the children." Her sentence died. His gaze froze every false word. In that moment, the house seemed to exhale and then hold its breath. Only the patter of rain on the porch remained, a sound marking the line that had finally been crossed. The hum of the engine broke the silence before stopping at the iron gate. Veronica was still standing on the porch, her hand gripping Lucy's thin arm, while Tommy gasped weakly in his sister's embrace. "I told you no one leaves this house without permission," she snapped, voice harsh and shaking. But when the front door opened, Veronica froze. Mr. Vance was there, tall, still, his eyes heavy as an approaching storm. He didn't speak. He just stared for a long, long time. "Hi, you. You came back." Veronica forced a breath. The corners of her lips twitched into an unstable smile. I was just teaching the kids a little lesson. They spilled milk all over the floor. A lesson? His voice descended, quiet but deep enough to still the air in the room. Veronica swallowed hard. You misunderstood me. They need discipline. I was just trying to guide them. He didn't answer. His gaze shifted to Lucy, her small hands shaking, her clothes soaked. Tommy rested limply against her shoulder, breathing weak. Mr. Vance took a step forward, knelt and gently touched Lucy's arm. The girl flinched but didn't pull away. Are you okay? Lucy opened her mouth but couldn't form a sound. Her lips moved weakly. Daddy! Veronica quickly intervened. See? She's just sensitive. A little tired, that's all. I just let them rest. He stood up slowly, without looking at her. Go inside, he said softly. Veronica thought he was talking to her, but then realized he meant the children. Lucy gathered Tommy in her arms and went inside cautious. SLOW Mr. Vance followed, while Veronica stood frozen, clutching her dress until her knuckles turned white. Inside. He set down his suitcase and took out his phone. Who are you calling? Veronica asked, trying to sound calm. He didn't answer. A few beeps later, the screen lit up. Security footage from the house surveillance system. Veronica leaned in, eyes blinking as the images appeared. Herself in the kitchen, throwing a milk bottle to the floor. Lucy on her knees cleaning with bare hands. Tommy crying nearby. Then came clips of her marking the fridge door, scolding Lucy for dropping a broom. With every passing frame, Veronica's face lost color. Where did you get that? From this house. You've been spying on me. No, he said quietly, tone cold. You recorded them yourself. Veronica let out a nervous laugh. That's ridiculous. They must be edited, faked. Someone is trying to... The doorbell rang. It wasn't Grace. Grace entered holding a folder in a USB drive. She nodded respectfully and handed them to Mr. Vance. These are the complete recordings and anonymous emails I received from Claire. Veronica's eyes darted wildly. Who? Mr. Vance opened the laptop and played the first recording. Veronica's voice filled the room. He trusts me completely. Once he signs the last part, the account will transfer to my name. The air turned heavy. Grace looked down, unable to meet Veronica's trembling eyes. This is fake. Veronica screamed, voice cracking. Someone is setting me up. Elena. Yes, it's Elena. She wants your money. She's twisting everything. But before she could finish, another car pulled up. 2 police officers entered, followed by Elena, the bank manager. She looked exhausted but firm. Mrs. Veronica Vance? An officer asked, double quotes, hi. Veronica turned, voice wavering. I don't understand. We have a complaint of forgery and unauthorized financial transfer. Elena handed over documents, speaking calmly. I suspected it earlier and sent the originals to the authorities. I'm sorry, Mr. Vance. I should have done it sooner. Veronica turned pale, backing against the wall. No, you don't understand. I did this for this family. I love him. I love those children. Mr. Vance remained silent, his eyes no longer holding anger, just something broken and hollow. Love? He murmured so softly it was barely heard. Is that what you call hurting children? You weren't here. You don't know what it's like to be alone. No one asked you to do this, Veronica. No one. She collapsed, sobbing. But the tears carried no weight. Really? One of the officers put a hand on her shoulder. Ma'am, please come with us. Veronica struggled, screaming. You can't let them take me. You owe me. No, Tommy. You'll regret it when I'm gone. Mr. Vance said nothing, watching as they took her away. When the door closed, the house fell completely silent. Only Tommy's faint breathing and Lucy's racing heartbeat remained. After a while, he sat down and pulled both children close. Lucy lifted her head, tears trembling in her eyes. Daddy. She's not coming back, is she? He didn't answer immediately. He ran a hand down her back, soft and firm. No, honey. Now it's just us. Tommy looked up weakly. Can I have milk? Mr. Vance pressed his lips together, then smiled, a small bittersweet smile. Of course, son. Son. All you want. The door opened again. Claire walked in, exhausted, holding a worn notebook and a folder. I'm sorry to come back without notice, she said quietly. But you should have this. He took them. Inside the notebook were dated entries, every cruel detail of Veronica's actions. Claire stood still for a moment before bowing her head. I just hope this helps the children. Thank you, Mr. Vance replied softly. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have known. She smiled faintly, eyes red. I only did what anyone should have done. The officers finished collecting Veronica's belongings and left. When the last car disappeared into the night, the house felt different. No orders, no shouting. Just the quiet hum of a place beginning to breathe again. Mr. Vance carried his children upstairs. Lucy, exhausted, fell asleep against his shoulder while still hugging Tommy. He tucked them in, pausing by the bed. In the dim light, he saw the scratches on Lucy's hands, the dryness of Tommy's lips, and realized he had never truly seen their fear until now. He sat on the edge of the bed and whispered, almost like an oath, I'm here now. But no one will ever hurt you again. Outside, the wind brushed the trees, carrying away the last echoes of darkness. The night stretched long and heavy, but somewhere within it, something shifted as if the shadows had finally receded, allowing the first trace of dawn to appear. The next morning, a doctor arrived to examine the children. Preliminary results confirmed malnutrition and mild physical trauma. Mr. Vance signed the report in silence, then gently squeezed Lucy's hand when she thanked the doctor. Son. Daddy, where are we going to go now? She asked as they walked out. To the hospital for a full checkup, he said. And there's someone I'd like you to meet. The hospital corridor was bright and quiet. Mr. Vance stopped at the reception desk where a woman was writing notes. She looked up, warm eyes, serene smile. Hello, Elena. The nurse assigned to his children introduced herself kindly. Hi, I'm going to take care of you for a while. Okay, Lucy nodded shyly, while Tommy hid behind his sister. Mr. Vance watched them, took a deep breath, and for the first time in a long time, felt something close to peace. The first morning at the hospital began with the faint smell of antiseptic and the quiet hum of gurney wheels gliding down the hall. Elena, head nurse of the pediatric ICU, entered the newly prepared room, noting initial vitals with practiced precision. Lucy sat by the bed gripping her little brother's hand. Tommy lay still, breathing weak, face pale but calmer than the night before. He's going to be okay, Elena said softly, her tone carrying the kind of reassurance only experience could give. We'll start another IV today and check his lungs. But you have to eat something. You can't take care of anyone if you faint first. Lucy nodded faintly, eyes never leaving her brother. Elena studied her for a moment, exhaling quietly. There was a tender sadness in her gaze, a sympathy too deep for words. She placed the food tray on the table and left, the rhythmic sound of the foredrip filling the silence between the two children. Elsewhere in the city, the investigation had begun. The interrogation room was cold, its light harsh against Veronica's face. Her eyes bloodshot, hair disheveled. She kept alternating between laughing and crying, claiming she had been framed, then insisting it had all been a test of loyalty. You are aware of where these recordings came from, aren't you? The investigator asked calmly. Veronica laughed raspily, running fingers through her tangled hair. From someone who wants to ruin me. They're jealous. No. Don't they understand that everything I did for him? For the children? The investigator opened a thick folder. Inside were printed video frames, audio transcripts, bank statements, and witness testimonies from Elena and Claire. Mrs. Veronica Vance, he said. The evidence shows you forged signatures, misappropriated assets, and committed grave child neglect. Do you have anything else to say? Veronica suddenly stood up, slamming her hands on the table. Today everyone is against me. Even him. He never understood me. Two officers entered to restrain her immediately. A psychiatrist was called. After the evaluation, he wrote in his report, patient displays acute emotional instability and severe delusional episodes. Requires transfer to a specialized psychiatric facility. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Mr. Vance rarely left his children's side. Every morning he sat by Tommy's bed reviewing Elena's medical notes. Sometimes he just stared in silence, as if his eyes alone were trying to make up for all the years he hadn't been there. Grace came with a binder of documents and company updates. They suggest you take a leave of absence for now. The court has frozen all assets connected to Veronica, but you remain the legal owner. Today I secured the accounts she tried to transfer to her name. For the moment, everything is stable. Mr. Vance nodded, voice husky. I don't care about the money. I just want my children safe. Grace stared at him for a long moment before saying softly, Thomas. You were there when they needed you most. Now you have to stay. 2 weeks passed. Tommy could finally sit up on his own. Lucy's skin regained its soft pink tone, her voice lighter, though she still startled whenever a door opened too fast. Elena guided her patiently through small routines. How to clean Tommy properly. How to take his temperature. Even how to talk to the therapist. One afternoon, while Lucy was peeling an apple, Elena sat beside her. Do you still have nightmares? Lucy paused in silence. Elena, they don't go away immediately. But you can make them smaller by talking about them. Lucy whispered, I only dream that I'm standing by the basement door. My stepmother tells me to go down, but I don't want to. Every time I take a step, my brother starts to cry. Elena gently squeezed her hand. No one will ever force you down there again. Here, all you have to learn is how to walk into the sunlight. At police headquarters, the investigation reached its conclusion. Veronica was transferred from temporary detention to a state psychiatric hospital. The final report read, subject exhibits total lack of behavioral control, fragmented mental state, frequent references to the two children alternating between laughter and crying. Long-term treatment required. Permanent revocation of guardianship recommended. Claire visited the children. Standing in the doorway, she watched Lucy help her brother practice walking down the hall. They are so strong, she murmured to Elena. Elena smiled softly. Children are incredible in that way. They can heal, as long as someone believes they deserve to be loved. Claire nodded and left. As she walked out of the hospital, her phone buzzed a message from the lead investigator. Case files have been forwarded to the district attorney. Thank you for your cooperation. That evening, golden sunlight poured through the hospital window. Mr. Vance received a letter from the court. The trial date was set for a month later. He read it in silence, then looked toward the hallway where Lucy was holding Tommy's hand, helping him take small steps, both laughing softly. Elena was nearby, her gaze kind. They are learning to trust the world again, she said. Mr. Vance smiled weakly. And I am learning to be a father again. In that moment, something inside him finally loosened, the guilt, the regret, the weight he had carried for so long. Outside, a soft breeze blew through the open window carrying the scent of medicine, sunlight, and something fragile but real. Hope. The morning of the sentencing arrived wrapped in a veil of pale mist. Inside the courtroom, every sound was amplified, the tapping of the judge's pen, the rustle of papers, the heavy breathing of those waiting to hear the verdict. Veronica sat with her head bowed, fingers interlaced so tightly they turned white. The presiding judge's voice broke the silence, deliberate and coldly precise. The defendant, Veronica Vance, is found guilty of child neglect and financial fraud. Considering her unstable psychological condition, the court orders she be committed to a psychiatric facility for the long term. Full custody of the children is hereby granted to Mr. Thomas Vance. Veronica didn't flinch. She only lifted her head slightly, eyes empty as if looking through thick glass. As the officers guided her out, she murmured softly. No one could tell. Who was she talking to? They are mine. I raised them. Thomas didn't turn around. He just tightened his grip on Lucy's small hand, as if trying to pull her away from those words forever. When the court announced he was entitled to compensation and a large financial settlement, he simply replied, I don't want it. Use it all to create a fund for children like mine. A month later, the old estate was sold. Every piece of his past was packed neatly into boxes organized, but heavy with memory. Their new home sat quietly in the suburbs, smaller, peaceful, with a backyard bordered by tall, slender trees. Lucy loved the small garden best, where she could plant rows of lavender. Tommy ran through the yard laughing every time Elena blew bubbles for him. Elena had moved in as their private nurse. Every morning she checked Tommy's blood pressure, noticing even the smallest changes. Lucy studied by the window, and sometimes Elena stopped to adjust the girl's posture. Smiling softly, Miss Elena, my brother drank 2 cups of milk today. Lucy said proudly. That's wonderful, Elena replied. Maybe tomorrow we can add a little honey. Tommy giggled. I love honey. But Daddy said too much sugar hurts your teeth. Elena chuckled. Then you take 1 spoonful, the deal? At the dining table, Thomas watched them with a faint smile. He didn't say a word, just stayed a little longer than usual. Sometimes old images still flashed before his eyes. The crying Lucy's terrified look, Tommy's cough. But they dissolved every time he heard their laughter. Life slowly regained its rhythm. Every morning, Thomas woke up early to prepare milk, placing 2 small cups on the table. Tommy, Lucy. Lucy always poured half for her brother, and Tommy clinked his cup against hers. Smiling, Elena organized their medicines, scheduled doctor visits, while Grace occasionally stopped by to discuss foundation matters. Claire now managed the charity full-time, and in every report she submitted, she mentioned the children as the heart of her mission. Since the move, Thomas had spoken less, but felt lighter somehow. Every time Elena entered the room, he simply nodded and smiled, a quiet thanks that needed no words. Lucy often called her Mom's friend. The first time Elena heard it, she froze, then gently stroked the girl's hair. If your mom could hear that, she whispered, I think she would smile. From that day on, a small card was always on Lucy's desk, for Miss Elena, Mom's friend. One afternoon, while they were finishing dinner, the phone rang. Elena got up to answer. On the other end was the chief doctor of the state psychiatric hospital. Miss Elena? We need the legal guardian of the patient, Veronica Vance, to sign some new documents. Her condition has worsened. Could Mr. Vance come tomorrow? Elena paused for a moment. I'll let him know immediately. She put down the phone. The room went silent. Lucy looked up, eyes wide, reflecting a fear she thought she had buried. It's my stepmother. Miss Elena? Yes, Elena nodded softly. The hospital needs someone to sign for her. Thomas placed his spoon on the table, eyes fixed on the candle flickering between them. After a long silence, he said in a low but firm voice, I'll go tomorrow. The morning was clear. Sunlight spilled through the frosted windows of the psychiatric hospital and reflected on Mr. Vance's calm face. He walked down the long corridor, the smell of antiseptic mixing with the faint squeak of rolling hospital beds. The attending doctor greeted him with a soft, measured voice. Miss Veronica is no longer fully aware of her surroundings. Her reactions are automatic at best. Today we'll need you to sign this acknowledgement so we can file the report. He took the pen in silence. His handwriting shook slightly but remained steady enough to finish. When he folded the paper, the doctor added gently, She doesn't recognize anyone now, though sometimes she still calls the children's names. He replied in a low tone, eyes unfocused. I just hope she's at peace wherever her mind has gone. When he walked out, the sky was blindingly bright. Standing at the gate, he inhaled deeply, and for the first time in years, felt something truly close to an ending. A few weeks later, in a small building with a modest sign reading the Lucy and Tommy Foundation, a simple opening ceremony was held. The room was bright, walls lined with children's paintings, homes, smiles, and round golden suns. Elena, Claire, and Grace were there. Today, Lucy and Tommy stood in the front row, holding hands tightly. Mr. Vance stepped up to the podium, voice deep and deliberate. I created this foundation not just to help children who have suffered, but to remind us all that kindness can save a life. My two children are living proof of that truth. When the applause softened, he turned to Elena. Their eyes met in a silent pause. He bowed slightly, his voice meant only for her. Hello, Elena. Let's build a home together. Shall we? She didn't answer, only smiled, tears shining in the corners of her eyes. No diamond rings, no flashing lights. Just a quiet but profound promise made in that sunlit room. A year later, their garden bloomed with soft white lavender. Their wedding was peaceful and intimate. Lucy held a flower crown. Tommy, struggling to keep his balance, carried a small pillow with the rings. That day, Elena wore a simple dress, her hair loose and light. When the minister asked, "Do you promise to protect, cherish, and raise these two children together?" Mr. Vance nodded. I not only promise, he said. I will do it for the rest of my life. Lucy watched them, whispering to her brother, now we do have a mom. Tommy nodded solemnly, gripping her hand. From that day on, no one in the house ever used the word stepmother again. Time passed, and the foundation grew stronger. Claire took charge of operations, Grace managed finances, and Elena led therapy and medical programs for abused children. Mr. Vance never returned to the corporate world. Lucy instead taught and mentored community projects. One afternoon, Lucy sat at her desk studying a law textbook. Elena stopped at the door, smiling softly. Are you sure about this path? Law can be tough, honey. Lucy looked up, eyes shining with determination. I want to help children like I once was. I think I understand them. Elena smiled. If you are guided by your heart, you will never feel tired. In the corner, Tommy was drawing. The lines were clumsy but full of warmth. On the paper, 2 steaming cups of milk stood side by side. He lifted his head. I made this for you, Dad. You always make 2 cups every morning. Mr. Vance laughed softly, ruffling his hair. Because I want you two to share everything. On the final morning of this story, the family gathered around the breakfast table. Elena poured milk. Lucy and Tommy teased each other. Mr. Vance watched the sunlight spill through the window into his garden. He was calm, but the kind of calm that belongs to peace, not absence. No one spoke of the past. They only kept what made them stronger, what kept them united. Elena placed her hand on his shoulder and whispered, we can't choose what happened to us, but we can choose how we live afterwards. He took her hand, nodding. And we made the right choice. Outside, the 2 children laughed in the sun. The scent of milk mixed with blooming lavender, floating through their small house, a place where a real family had finally begun. And that is tonight's bedtime story. A journey from darkness to light, where a father found love again, 2 children reclaimed their childhood, and a gentle woman brought healing to a whole family. What do you think of this story? Which character moved you the most? The brave Lucy, the innocent little Tommy, the kind-hearted Elena, or Mr. Vance with his quiet redemption as a father? And which moment touched your heart the deepest? Share your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about how kindness can rebuild even the most broken of hearts.